Hey guys, today's lesson is on extended chords or extended harmony. Basically, guys, anything that is an extension of the chord is anything that goes beyond the seventh. Okay, so if we take a look at our regular, chords, we would have usually 1, 3, 5, 7. Okay, so if I just spell out a C major chord in treble clef over here, that's a terrible treble clef. We would have C, E, G, B, and that would be, a major seventh chord, right? C, triangle, 7. But in our C major 7 chord, we're using notes from the C major scale, right? And we have a lot left to pick over, okay, if we don't use that one. So here's all the notes in our scale, right? And we've used 1, 3, 5, and 7, okay? But if we continue our scale, we'll notice that it kind of goes, infinitely, right? But if we continue this idea where we're on a note, and then we skip one, on a note, and then we skip one, etc., we're going to get these other notes. So if we keep doing this, we can skip this one because we don't need it, and then we would use this one right here. So this would be 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, okay? So the eighth is actually the same as the first. 1 and 8 are the same. This is a C, and so is that, so we don't really need that one right now. But if we kept this order going up here and using only lines, we would add the next line right there, which would be a D, okay? So this is our D right there, and that would actually be called the ninth, because it's 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9, right? The ninth, though, guys, is also the same as the second, because this is a D, and so is that note there, okay? The reason we call it the ninth instead of the second is because it's coming in on top of the seventh, like it's up that way as opposed to being down here. So I'm going to write this and erase this, but if we added the second instead of the ninth, we would have that note right there, way down at the bottom. So let me just erase that really quick, and hopefully it doesn't make a big deal. Okay, great. Okay, so we can also keep going. We're going to skip, this note here and go to this one here, which is the 11th, okay? Again, we have another line right there, so we're still following our idea of thirds where we're skipping every other note. And now we have the 11th of the chord, which is an F. And the 11th is the same as the 4th, because the 4th, again, right here, that's an F, and the 11th right here is an F, so it's the same note. But we refer to it as the 11th because it's higher than the 7th, okay? The 12th is the G natural, which is the same as the 5th, so we're going to leave that one alone. And then the last one we have that we haven't used yet is the 13th, okay? And this 13th is an A, which means it's the same thing as the 6th note. And that we're going to put way up there, okay? So now we have what is referred to as a C major 13 chord because it has 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13. Okay, so I'm going to clear up some of this to make it a little bit easier to read. But basically, if we kind of draw our scale out again and kind of, cross out every note that we're using, if we spell an entire C, or any key rather, but any 13th chord of any kind, you'll see that we're using every single note in the scale, which is pretty cool actually. So let's see what that looks like. Again, I have my, I'll just do one octave for now, okay? So I have my C right there, so I'm going to cross that out. That's gone. My next note is an E, so I'm going to cross that out. Next note right there is a G, so cross that out. And then my 7th is my B, okay? So that's my regular 1, 3, 5, 7. Now I still have 3 notes left. I have the 9th, which is D, the 11th, which is F, and the 13th, which is A. So as you can see, guys, this chord uses all the notes of the entire scale, and it's pretty awesome, okay? The reason why these 9th chords, 11th chords, and 13th chords exist in jazz music is because the more extensions there are in music, or the chord rather, the more specific the overall emotion or kind of feeling and atmosphere that chord provides. So I can try to show you that to you on piano really quick, if this thing isn't terribly out of tune. But hopefully this will sound good coming through the speakers. So if I play, I'll do it on an orchestra setting. That'll sound pretty good. So if I play my regular C major chord, it sounds like this. Okay. If I play a C major 7, it sounds like this. Okay, so we can already hear that's a lot prettier. And it just has like a more specific dimension of beauty rather than just our regular triad. Okay. If we had the ninth, that goes from a seventh to a ninth. That sounds like this. Okay. It's a little bit more of a specific sound. Okay. Now, when we add the 11th is actually going to sound kind of tense and not in a good way. So I'll just play it for you really quick, but okay. So it's a rule that we'll learn later on, but with major chords, if you're going to use the 11th, you usually want to actually raise it from the F to an F sharp, which would sound like this, going to this. Okay, that sounds a lot better. And continuing on, if we keep that 11th sharp or the F sharp and we add the 13th, which is A, then we get this massive chord that sounds like this. Okay, so here's the whole thing. Okay, hopefully that came out nice and clear. Okay, so back to the lesson. The one thing that we have to remember about extensions that will make it so we don't make a lot of mistakes in the future is remembering that regardless if your chord is, major, or if it's minor, or if it's dominant, whatever it is that you're spelling, whether it's a 9th or 11th or 13th or anything like that, you have to remember that these extensions, the 9, the 11, and the 13, are always going to come from the major scale, okay? So that means before you start spelling these out in all these different keys with all these different qualities, that when you're doing the 9th and the 11th and the 13th, that they're coming from the regular key signature for that. So for example, if you were doing something like, let me try to think of a weird one. Like if you're doing B major, okay? I'm going to do this really quick, so don't worry if this is weird. If I did B major 13, I know I'm going to have a ton of sharps here, right? This goes all the way up to G, yeah. So my key signature for B major is F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, right? Should be it. So I'm going to start putting these in. So I have an F sharp right there, which is my 5th, so the 5th is up. Next one is C sharp, that's my 9th, right? So after that we have G sharp, that's my 13th actually. Then we have D sharp, which is my 3rd, and then we have A sharp, which is my 7th. Okay. So you would start with this before making anything else. So for example, if it was like B, major 13, sharp 11, like if that's what they were making you play, you would start with this by doing the key signature the way it is, and then making the changes from there. So for example, the 11th, they want you to sharp it. The 11th in this key is E natural, so the E would turn into E sharp, okay? The reason this is confusing, guys, is because a lot of you will see like, oh, like this is a minor 11th chord. So you'll think that because in a minor chord you have, 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7, that you might have to flat the 9th or flat the 11th or something like that because it's minor, because you do that down there. But that's incorrect. Don't worry about that. Okay, so let's go on to doing some of these actual things in the worksheet. And as you can see here, guys, all of your formulas that you're probably going to need are going to be in here. And everything else that's not written on this paper, you can pretty much just do from, where's that word? When you know something without thinking about it. I can't think of it right now. Common sense. Yeah, common sense. So, for example, like this chord right here, this is C major 7 with a sharp 11, okay? They don't have that chord over here. None of these chords have sharp 11, right? But if we look at it and use common sense, we should be able to figure it out. This is, at its basis, a C major 7 chord, which we know is 1, 3, 5, 7, which means all you're doing after that is adding in a sharp 11, okay? Now, the thing is, guys, with extensions like this, the notes that you write before the parentheses are the highest that it's supposed to go. So, for example, if this is C major 7, sharp 11, like what it is right there, there's not going to be a 9th, because if there was, it would say C, it would say C major 9th instead, and then a sharp 11, but it doesn't say that. So this formula is only going to be 1, 3, 5, 7. Of course, I'm getting a phone call right now. No 9th, and the 11th is going to be sharp, so that's what you're going to do for that chord there. Let's look at another example. Let's pick, how about E minor 9 right here, okay? So I'm going to erase all this really quick. For E minor 9, what you would do is you would know, okay, this is a minor chord, so I'm going to do my formula, which is 1, flat 3. Oh, that looks terrible, sorry. I would do 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7, right? And this is telling me I'm going to need to add the 9th, so I'm going to put that in. I'm not going to flat it, I'm not going to sharp it, I'm just going to leave it the way it is, okay? So, you go through, you do your whole thing, you put in all your notes for an E chord that's going to go all the way up to the 9th this time, so 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. You put in your major key signature, which is 4 sharps, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, do all that, so you get something like this. Again, that time the 9th is being raised because it's part of the key signature. And then you go back and you look and say, okay, what's my actual formula, which is this. So you're going to lower the 3rd, lower the 7th, and then you'll have your chord. So to do that, I'm just going to erase my 3rd right there and my 7th. I'm going to put that other one back. That was a mistake. And bam, there's my chord. E, G, B, D, F sharp. Okay? Let's look for any other weird ones on this paper. A lot of these on this one are pretty easy. They're just the same thing over and over again in different keys. Okay, let's look at the next one. Yeah, let's look at some of these. So let's look at this one right here. So this is a tricky one, right, guys, because it's one of the ones where you have to look at it and figure out what it is as opposed to that. So the way I would do this is, again, step one's going to be, what key are you in? We're in the key of D because that's what the bottom note is. You can also usually come up with whatever the top note's going to be just by counting, right? So this is 1, 3, 5, 7. So I know this is going to be higher than a 7th chord. My 9th would go there, my 11th would go there, and there's my 13th. So I know this is a D 13th of some kind, but I don't know if it's major or if it's minor or if it's dominant. Or diminished or something like that. But so far, these are the only 3 that we know of according to the paper that we're given. So what you guys are going to do, same thing you did with the other worksheets, is just kind of fill all this in and put in your own key signature for the key of D, which is F sharp, C sharp, right? And this is going to show us like what would be, let's cross it out to make it easier to read. This is what would normally be happening if this was a D major 13. It's supposed to be a triangle, okay? So everything actually here is the same except for the C sharp. That's the only thing different. So they lowered the 7th. So that means this formula is 1, 3, 5, flat 7, which means the flat 7 part is the dominant chord. So this means this is a D dominant 13 chord. And just like a dominant 7th chord, guys, we don't need a symbol for dominant. We just write 7. So for this, you would write the highest number. So D13 would mean D dominant 13, okay? Let's do another one. Is there any other pages in this? Yes, there is. Great, great, great. Okay, let's do a few of these. So let's do something like B flat major 13. This one's going to be really easy, guys. All you're doing here pretty much is just drawing, we know it's in the key of B flat, and we know it's a major 7th chord going up to the 13th. So we're just going to put in all of those notes. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, right? And now, we just put in the key signature for that, which is B flat and E flat. Once you put those in, guys, it's basically done. That's your B flat major 13 chord. Because there's nothing to change here. They're asking for the default easy one. Let's do another one. Sorry, I want this to move. Let's do C major 13, sharp 11, okay? So I'm in the key of C. Actually, no, that one's too easy. Let's do this one here. Bam. F major 13, sharp 11. So we're in the key of F. We know we're going all the way up to our 13th, and there's something funky happening with our 11th. So we're going to ignore the 11th for now, but we're going to put in all of our notes. So that looks something like this. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. Okay? So this is an easy one again because it's a major chord. So we're just going to put in the key signature, which is a B flat. That goes right there. That's my B flat. And now let's look back at this. Our chord goes up to the 13th, so we're good to go for that. We do need to raise the 11th. So the 11th is supposed to be, by default, a B flat, because of our key signature. But because this chord's telling us to raise that, we're going to raise that up. So B flat is going to turn into B natural. So I'm just going to erase that flat and pretend it wasn't even there. Maybe. Is it gonna let me erase that? Thank you. And that means my chord is done, actually. So it looks pretty good, just like that. No sharps, no flats. Let's look at another one over here. This is an interesting one. F sharp 9. So the first thing you guys want to make sure, guys, is that this is not an F chord with a sharp ninth, okay? That means something different. If we saw this written like this, it would mean it was 1, 3, 5, and then sharp 9, but that's not what this is. We're going to treat this actually kind of like this. We're going to treat this as an F sharp chord with an added ninth, right? But the thing is, guys, is because this is a number by itself, it means it's dominant. So this is really F sharp dominant ninth, which just means it's, you know, an F sharp chord, F sharp 7 chord. So 1, 3, 5, flat 7, and we're going to add the ninth in there like that. So let's do that right now. We have F, A, C, E, G. That's 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, right? And then we're going to put in our key signature for the key of F, which, oh, sorry, we're in F sharp, sorry. So we need a bajillion sharps. F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, E sharp. God, that is awful. Okay, so we're going to go crazy and raise all those up. So that's going to go up. C sharp's going to go up. G sharp's going to go up. I'm going to do that to separate it and make it a little easier. There's no D sharps in this. There is an A sharp. It's right there. And there is an E sharp. So this is my F sharp ninth chord so far, but I need to make sure I'm following this formula. So I'm going to go back, look for anything that's weird, like this, the flat 7th, and lower that. So E sharp is my 7th, and that has to go from E sharp down to E natural. So I can just delete that sharp right there. No, I knew that was going to happen. Sorry, guys. So it would just look like, you know, everything is sharp in that chord except for the E, or you could put a natural there. Either one's fine. Let me see if there's any of these other ones we should go over. Let's do F minor major 9, okay? This one's not that hard, guys. You know, we're in the key of F, so we'll do all my things for that. Going all the way up to the 9th, so I have make sure I have 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 right there. I'm going to make sure I know my formula before going in this. So my F minor major 7 chord would be 1, flat 3, 5, 7. But this is an F minor major 9th chord. So 7th is going to go exactly where it is, but we're also going to add the 9th. But it's not telling us to do anything different with the 9th. It's just saying it's a major 9th, so we're good to go. Put in the key signature for the key of F, which is just going to be a B flat. There are no B flats, so we just need to make sure we're honoring this, which is the flatted third. So there's my 3. A turns an A flat. Boom. Done. Last tricky one. Let's do this one over here. This is F11. Okay, so we know that this is an F dominant chord because there's no major sign, right, or MA, and there's no minor sign or lowercase mi, right? So this is F dominant, which means it's 1, 3, 5, flat 7. Although this one's going to go all the way up to the 11th. So we're going to add the 9th, keep it normal, and add the 11th, okay? So let's make sure I have all those. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. Put in my key signature for the key of F, which is just 1 flat. My B flat's way up here. And the only thing we have to do now is make sure we're honoring the formula. The only thing that stands out is the flat 7, so I'm going to lower E down to E flat, and bam, there's my F11 chord, or my F dominant 11th chord. That should be everything on this homework, guys. Nothing else should be, you know, have any surprises. This one here is probably going to be your toughest one to do. It's going to take the longest, but there's some things to make it easier. For example, you can figure out, you know, what the extension is and the root is right away. This is an F chord, so it's going to be an F, and then this goes all the way up to the 9th, so it's going to be an F9 of some kind. We don't know if that's a dominant chord or if it's major or if it's minor yet, right? You got to figure that out on your own. Let's do another one over here. Bottom note is G, so it's a G chord of some kind. We have 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13. So this is a G13 of some chord, some kind. But again, we don't know if this is dominant yet, which would be 1, 3, 5, flat 7. We also don't know if it's major, which would be 1, 3, 5, 7. And we don't know if it's minor either, which would be 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7. We don't know about any of those yet. So we also don't know if they want us to do something weird with the 11th. Like this could be a G13 with a sharp 11, right? So We don't know that yet, but we know that we can start this knowing that it's in the key of G, and then it's going to go up to the 13th, and that once we do everything with our key signature, we'll figure out where to go from there. I'd say if you have anything that has sharps and flats like that, those are going to be really weird. That's probably going to be like a minor major seventh chord of some kind, or maybe like a diminished major seventh, something like that. So I'd keep an eye out for those. But other than that, guys, everything in here is pretty self-explanatory. And don't shy away from this paper. This has all of your formulas in one spot. But really, guys, you're just kind of looking to see in this whole packet if something is, major or minor or dominant, because the 9th and 11th and 13th of all three of these are the same no matter what the key is. So really you're just figuring out, if it's major, it's going to be 1, 3, 5, 7. If it's minor, it's going to be 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7. And if it's dominant, it's going to be 1, 3, 5, flat 7. So once you get the bottom half of the chord down, then you just be like, oh, it has a 9th in it, so it's a dominant 9th. Or, oh, it's major, but it goes all the way up to the 13th, so it's a major 13th, Nothing too crazy, at least in comparison to next week's assignment, which is altered chords, where everything gets very crazy. All right, guys, hopefully this video helps, and don't feel free to reach out to me if you need any help with anything else, okay?